A poor man, after 20 years of hard work and penny pinching, saved up all his savings to build a house. This house represented not only his dream, but also his commitment and hope for his family. They chose a lucky day to move in, and the whole family was filled with anticipation, ready to embrace the beginning of a new life. However, just 2 days before the move, a sudden earthquake caused the new house to collapse. When the man learned that his lifelong dream had turned to dust, his reaction surprised everyone. He went to the market to buy some candies and went straight to the collapsed house. When he arrived, many people had already gathered there, expressing sympathy and concern for him. His new house, which had never been inhabited, had already become ruins. Some people tried to comfort him, but the man took out candies from his pocket and began to distribute them to everyone present. This action surprised everyone. Seeing his behavior, someone couldn't help but ask, "Are you crazy? Your new house has collapsed, and all your life savings have gone up in smoke. Why are you happily distributing candies here?" The man smiled and replied, "You only see the negative side of this matter, so you can't see the positive side. Today, it's fortunate that the house collapsed, because if it had collapsed after we moved in, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Our whole family might have died, and such a loss would be truly immense. So whatever happens, I believe it's for a better outcome."
On a rainy afternoon, a hobbling old woman, drenched from head to toe, walked into a Philadelphia department store. Looking at her shabby appearance and simple dress, all the sales clerks ignored her, except for a young man who said warmly, "Madam, is there anything I can do for you?" The old woman smiled and said, "No, I just want to take a shelter here and will leave soon." However, she looked obviously uneasy, because the rainwater was dripping from her feet to the carpet at the entrance. At a loss, the old woman was approached by the young man again. He said, "Madam, you must be tired. I'll get a chair for you to sit by the door and take a rest." After the rain stopped 2 hours later, the old woman thanked the young man and asked for his business card before she disappeared into the crowd. Several months later, James, the general manager of the Philadelphia department store, received a letter. The letter specifically requested the young man to go to Scotland to receive an order of decorating materials and be responsible for the supply of office supplies for several family-owned companies in the next quarter. James was shocked. He calculated quickly and found that the profits brought by this letter alone were equivalent to the sum of their profits in 2 years. After he contacted the writer as soon as possible, he learned that she was the mother of Andrew Carnegie, the American billionaire known as the King of Steel. She was the old woman who took shelter in the Philadelphia department store several months ago. James immediately recommended the young man named Philip to the board of directors. When Philip was ready to go to Scotland, he had already become a partner of the department store. That year, Philip was 22 years old. The little boy was 9 years old. One day, when his mother came back with a gloomy face, she began to ask him to cook, wash clothes, and do various housework. If he didn't do well, he would be scolded. The little boy cried every day, but his mother never showed him a good face. The little boy didn't understand why his gentle mother suddenly changed. Since then, the little boy hated his mother very much. After half a year, his mother was admitted to the hospital. When the little boy entered his mother's ward, his mother shouted at him, "You get out of here, you get out of here." The little boy's heart was broken, and he swore never to forgive her. A month later, his mother died of liver cancer, but the little boy didn't shed a tear. Soon his father married a stepmother, and the little boy finally felt the lost maternal love. When the little boy was old enough to go to high school, they had difficulties in paying tuition fees. At that time, his father took out a box and said, "Your mother left a box before she died. She said you could only open it when you were old enough to go to high school. Now I give it to you." The boy reluctantly opened the box and saw only a check and a letter. The content of the letter immediately made the boy weep bitterly. The letter said, "My son, when you read this letter, Mom is no longer in the world. You must remember Mom's severity and harshness before she died. Every time I saw you crying, my heart hurt very much. I wanted to hug you, but I held it in because I was worried that you couldn't live after I die, and I was afraid that you would compare me with your stepmother in the future, so I decided to make you hate me. This check is $10,000 raised by your grandmother before she asked me to buy medicine, but I kept it secretly. I don't know if it's enough for your high school and university expenses. If not, my son has grown up and can earn money himself. After reading the letter, the boy wept uncontrollably and ran to his mother's grave, kneeling for a long time.
During the Great Depression in the United States, an 18-year-old girl named Masha struggled to find a job and eventually landed a position as a sales clerk in a high-end jewelry store. On the eve of Christmas, a male customer around 30 years old entered the store. Although he was neatly dressed and appeared refined, it was evident that he was also suffering from the unfortunate reality of unemployment. When Masha greeted him, the man smiled uncomfortably, almost as if he were saying, "You don't need to attend to me. I'm just looking around." At that moment, Masha accidentally knocked over a tray on the counter, spilling 6 exquisite gold rings onto the floor. The girl hurriedly went to pick them up, but after recovering 5, she couldn't find the 6th ring. As she looked up, she saw the man walking towards the door and immediately realized where the missing ring was. As his hand was about to touch the door frame, Masha softly said, "Excuse me, sir." Her heart was pounding. "Yes," he finally said. Masha gathered her courage and said, "Sir, this is my first job, and it's really not easy to find a job nowadays, isn't it?" The man scrutinized her for a long time, and eventually, a smile appeared on his face. Masha smiled back at him, and the two of them seemed as intimate and natural as old friends meeting. "Yes, indeed," he replied, "but I'm sure you'll do well here." After a brief pause, he walked towards her and extended his hand. "Can I offer you my best wishes?" After a firm handshake, he turned and left. Masha opened her hand, and the golden ring inside was sparkling. This story teaches us that everyone makes mistakes in real life, and some of these mistakes are merely impulsive acts. When faced with others' mistakes, relentless criticism and harshness may backfire, but treating them with a forgiving heart and giving them a chance to correct their errors may save a person's soul.